A wise man once said, "Curiosity is the first step towards wisdom." And in my case, it was also the first step towards losing my frickin' mind. I'm your average 20-year-old guy just trying to get through university. That is, until I started hearing whispers in the middle of the night. It started subtly. A word here, a sentence there, always on the periphery of my hearing. I chalked it up to stress and exhaustion from pulling all-nighters studying for exams. But when the whispers started bleeding into my waking hours, I knew something was wrong. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was sprawled across my bed, drowning in textbooks, trying to decipher the cryptic language of ancient Mesopotamian texts. The air in my dorm room was thick with the smell of stale pizza and desperation. Suddenly, a whisper sliced through the silence. "Leave it," it hissed. The voice, like nails, scraping down a chalkboard. Startled, I sat up. Had I imagined it? Was it just my overworked brain playing tricks on me? I dismissed it as such, and went back to my books. But the whispers grew bolder as the weeks passed. They taunted me, jeered at me, sometimes even speaking in tongues. Their words, a symphony of madness. My friends, bless them, thought I was losing my grip. They suggested I see a therapist, take a break, maybe move out of that cursed dorm. But none of it worked. The whispers followed me everywhere. Their incessant chatter, a background track to my now miserable existence. Then one night, as I tossed restlessly in my bed, unable to shake off the feeling of dread that had become my constant companion, I heard a new voice, clear and distinct. "Help me," it pleaded, the voice a strangled sob. I sat up again, heart pounding. This wasn't part of the soundtrack. This was an SOS call from beyond the grave. I felt a cold dread seep into my bones. Was I going insane, or was there something darker at play here? In a panic, I started researching old Mesopotamian tales, hoping to find some clue, some pattern to this madness. And that's when I stumbled upon the legend of the Jinn. These elemental beings, born of fire and smoke, were said to inhabit objects, places, even bloodlines, and if they chose to do so, they could whisper their secrets to those pure of heart, or in my case, drive them insane. I delved deeper into these ancient texts, my fear growing with every page I turned. I learned about the Jinn's intricate hierarchy, their elemental nature, and the ways they could influence human lives. It was a world of fire and fury, smoke and shadows, where the veil between the physical and spiritual realms was paper thin. And it seemed I had stumbled right into its path. But how did I attract the attention of these capricious entities? What did they want from me? I was just an ordinary student trying to get through life, one lecture and one all-nighter at a time. The answer, it seemed, lay buried in the history of my dorm room. So I decided to trace its roots, to unearth its past, and hopefully break the cycle of terror that had become my new reality. The quest took me through dusty archives, crumbling manuscripts, and into the labyrinthine corridors of forgotten lore. Finally, I found it, a faded record detailing the history of my dorm room. What I read sent a chill down my spine. The room, it turned out, had once belonged to a renowned archaeologist who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances while excavating a site in the deserts of northern Iraq. He was obsessed with uncovering artifacts connected to the Jinn, and it was rumored he had unwittingly unleashed something terrible. Could the Jinn have followed him home? Was that why my room became their hunting ground? With each passing day, the whispers grew louder, the shadows deeper, and my sanity thinner. My room, once a sanctuary of sorts, had become a battleground between the worlds. I tried everything. I cleansed the room with holy water, scoured it with salt, even attempted to banish the spirits with sage. But nothing worked. They were relentless, persistent, and somehow malevolent. And then there were the dreams. Oh God, the dreams. Every night I was pulled into the swirling vortex of the Jinn's realm. I'd find myself in a bazaar, haggling over mystical wares, or chased through sun-baked alleyways by unseen entities. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, the whispers still ringing in my ears. I was trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. I confided in a professor, Dr. Lewis, an expert in Middle Eastern mythology. He listened patiently, his brow furrowed with concern. Then he spoke, his voice grave. "There's only one way to sever ties with the Jinn," he said. "Find the vessel, the object they've attached themselves to, and destroy it. But finding that vessel was like looking for a needle in a desert. Where do you even begin? When everything whispers to you, nothing stands out." Days blurred into weeks. I scoured my room, my mind sharp with paranoia, convinced that any moment the Jinn might fully possess me. That's when I noticed it. A tarnished silver pendant hidden deep in a drawer. It didn't look like much, a simple tribal design, but something about it set off alarm bells in my brain. Could this be the key to my torment? As I held the pendant, I felt a jolt, a surge of energy that seemed to wrap around my arm, icy fingers tracing paths up my spine. My heart hammered against my ribs. This, I was sure, was the vessel. With trembling hands, I brought the pendant to Dr. Lewis. His eyes, when he saw it, widened in horror. "The pendant of summoning," he whispered, his voice tight with fear. "You must destroy it immediately." He led me to an old iron cauldron filled with holy water, salt, and herbs. I dropped the pendant into the mix and watched as it began to burn, not with flames, but with a dark, oily fire that consumed the pendant bit by bit. As the last of the pendant dissolved into the cauldron, a scream tore through the room. It wasn't mine. It was the sound of pure rage and terror, a soul dragged screaming into the abyss. Then silence, but that silence was more deafening than the whispers ever were. The shadows receded, the voices faded, and the dreams stopped coming. The battle was over. I had won, or so I thought. One evening, as I sat in my now silent room, a shadow flickered across the wall. I turned to see what it was, but there was nothing there, just a sliver of sunlight piercing through the curtains. Had the Jinn returned? Was I doomed to relive this torment all over again? Just as I was about to dismiss it as my overactive imagination, the whisper started again. This time, it was closer, right by my ear. "Thank you," it breathed. The voice, a raspy whisper. I whirled around, but it was too late. The Jinn had vanished, leaving me in the suffocating grip of my own fear. I realized then that perhaps some doors are better left unopened, some secrets better left buried. The line between our world and theirs is thin, and all it takes is a curious mind and an open door to bring the whispers from beyond our world into our own. I still hear the whispers sometimes, even now, years after that harrowing ordeal. They dance at the edge of my hearing, a constant reminder of the day I danced with the devil and lived to tell the tale. But there's one thing I never told anyone, and it keeps me up at night. When I destroyed the pendant, I thought I'd vanquished the Jinn. But in the quiet moments, when the whispers die down and the shadows grow long, I can't help but wonder, did I really? You see, when the entity was banished, it promised retribution. But what if its vengeance lies dormant, waiting for its moment to strike? What if I'm not truly free, but merely living on borrowed time? The thought is a parasite in my mind, breeding fear and doubt. So here's the question I leave you with. If you were me, would you risk it all to uncover the truth? Would you disturb the ashes of the past, knowing that some doors are best left unopened? Because in the game of cat and mouse between our world and theirs, the ultimate prize is our very souls.